Hello everyone. Today I will be discussing something that has been bothering me with the game for a good time, and I think it's quite relevant now with the recent Yamamoto campaign being unlocked, stage 3, which focuses a lot on destroyer play, and that is Battleship AP on destroyers. Now, it's become somewhat of a meme, and those who follow my stream know that this is something I'm often quite vocal about, something I complain about quite often, but I haven't really made any YouTube vid about this. So I figured I might as well share some of my grievances on YouTube as well, since even though my audiences overlap, there's quite a significant exclusive audience on both sides. Now my issue here is, the issue I have with Battleship AP on DDs is actually quite complex. Now you see, a Shimakaze is briefly spotted by my Shimakaze is pushing into the cap. He's trying to do his job here, he's trying to push into the cap just like any DD should. My DD is doing the same. Their DD, he got very briefly spotted, instantly turned away to dodge. I hit him twice. 9.7k damage. The overpen, perfectly fine. The normal pen, suddenly magically increasing the damage to a massive 9.7k health. 9.7k on a Shimakaze. A Shimakaze, a normal tier 10 Shimakaze has 17.9k health. He just lost more than half, much more than half his health, because he was very briefly spotted trying to do his job. There wasn't carrier planes that gave him a warning, it wasn't a radar from some ship that could have spotted him. No, it was our Shima that spotted their Shima. They have identical concealment. And he instantly reacted by turning away, and I think he even smoked and just basically tried to disengage as fast as possible. He still lost more than half his health. And that's, in my opinion, completely retarded. Because, well, if I landed multiple shells, like let's say I landed 10 shells and they were overpens, okay, sure, I got the magical super volley, that's okay. I would be pretty okay with that, getting 10 overpens and dealing like 12k damage, or let's say 8 overpens and dealing 9k damage. That would be pretty okay with me, because then he would have to be in a situation where I can land that many shells. Or alternatively, if I knew a DD was going to show up, I had switched to HE and I landed, let's say, 3 HE hits on him, and then I did 9k. Once again, I would be somewhat okay with this, because that me as a player would actively switch ammo type and thus punish the destroyer. My problem here is, of course, that this makes it extremely lazy for battleships, and even more punishing for DDs for no real reason. Because when AP is so incredibly potent against destroyers, there's no real reason for these AP heavy battleships like the Großer Kurfürst, the Yamato and such. There's no real for them to ever switch ammo type. Because why would we? Why would I switch ammo type when my AP is fantastic against cruisers, fantastic against battleships, and even fantastic against destroyers? There's no incentive here. Now, Wargaming tried to make HE more attractive on the Royal Navy, but they kind of fucked that up as well, because they made HE so absolutely incredibly stupidly powerful that on the Royal Navy there's kind of the same problem, except the other way around. There's almost no reason to ever use AP on those, because HE is so incredibly consistent. So, well, that's the Royal Navy, I won't go into them right now. The problem this situation presents is not just, of course, that it means battleship gameplay is extremely lazy, but I mean, there is this whole paper, rock, scissors kind of gameplay. The idea is, let's say if cruisers are the scissors, then the battleships are the rock that counter the scissors, and the idea is, of course, that the DDs are supposed to be the paper to counter the battleships. But this keeps getting thrown on its head. First of all, of course, we have the Hydro, which is already making this rock, let's say, a bit with sharp edges and such, meaning the DDs can't really counter you too well. Then we have perks like fire prevention, which means gunboating DDs kind of struggle to really do too much to you either. And then there's this massive AP punishment. And it makes life for DDs so complex, because when they get spotted, a DD can get spotted for multiple reasons, regardless of how well you play. I've been super unicum in DDs for well over a year. For those that aren't aware, that's like this, the top 0.1% of the population or something like that. I've been playing DDs for a year at that level, and I get spotted randomly all the time. There's a cruiser that was never spotted hiding behind an island who pops radar. Oh, There's no way I could have known that. There's no way I could have prepared for it. And I got radared by him because I was trying to push a capture point, which is of course your job. Or there's a plane that decided to fly my way, and regardless of smoke or something, I didn't have in time to react, or I couldn't smoke up. Or let's say I smoke up and then some radar cruiser notices the smoke and then radars me. Like, there's plenty of situations where you have no option but to get spotted in your DD unless you play extremely safe, unless you sit in the back line and just snipe. Snipe with 20 km torps or something equally stupid. So there are always situations where you get spotted as a DD. It's unavoidable. The problem arises when you get spotted. See, as a DD, if you get spotted, you of course want to disengage. That's the obvious reaction because, well, enemy gunboats and DDs will shoot at you, so you angle away from them, you turn away from them, and you try to make yourself the smallest possible target, and you try to create distance. Cruisers will shoot HE at you, of course. This is another reason to angle and turn away because, well, if you sail broadside in a cruiser or in a DD, you're very easy to hit with cruisers because especially railgun cruisers like Hindenburg, Moskva, and these kinds of cruisers will very heavily punish you unless you're angling and sailing away, and they'll break your engine, set you on fire, and all this shit. So you need to angle to sail away. This makes perfect sense. This is a DD reacting to being spotted to something unexpected and trying to mitigate the damage they take. The problem arises though that when you do this move of turning away and trying to disengage, you automatically open yourself up to these incredibly stupid battleship AP penetrations. And if you don't angle, you get punished by gunboats, you get punished by cruisers. If you do angle, you put yourself at risk of these pretty much completely RNG massive penetrations that can completely annihilate you. That was, at the start you saw 2 hits on the Shimakaze. 2 hits, more than half his health pool gone. And that is, in my opinion, terrible design, because it leaves DDs in a situation where there is no right move to make. There's literally no right move. If they sail showing a lot of broadside, hoping that when the battleship AP hits them, they will get overpens, they eat gunboat and cruiser damage, and if they angle, they risk getting deleted by this stupid AP mechanic. So it leaves DDs with no real options, and considering DDs are pretty much the class that die the most often and the earliest and the quickest, because they have the most risky job in the game. They are the ones who have to push the capture points, they are the ones who have to contest it, and they are the ones that are seen as the priority target pretty much always by all forms of radars, carriers, everything. And so they already have a really shitty job. In general, and making it so that basically the ship that has, I would say, the least challenging job of them all, making it so that that guy can punish them just by RNG alone and without even having to switch ammo type is, in my opinion, just very bad design. And I really hate it. I don't like it at all. I'm perfectly okay with being able to punish DDs if you switch ammo type. Like, if a good Battleship player sees a DD about to pop up, he switches to HE and then he lands like 3-4 hits and he does a massive damage. I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly okay, because that displayed planning by the Battleship. Displayed he was reacting and switching ammo type and then punishing him, and the DD failed to react, or he was spotted and then went somewhere predictable and then he was punished. I'm okay with these situations, but using this one ammo type beats them all sort of stuff is just stupid. Like, let's say this Shima showing me full broadside. I hit him 3 overpens. That's like what, 3.8k damage with these Kurfürst 406 guns. If you're wondering why I use them, I cover this in many Kurfürst commentaries. And he's trying to flee, he's trying to disengage. I think the Des Moines might be radaring him, and he pops up again, and I shoot a second AP volley. And because he's so close and he's sailing in a predictable path, I land 6 overpens, which is about 7.6k damage. He had 7.8. My secondary finished him off. That full penetration was just a bugged label. You sometimes get them. I didn't actually get any full penetrations. And I'm perfectly okay with this. Like, if you land 9 shells with the Battleship on a DD and you do what, 9 shells is something like what, 12k damage or something like that, I'm okay with this, because that's such a large percentage of hits on such a small target. I'm perfectly fine with this kind of mechanic, and I don't think battleships need to be more punishing than this. because there's no real need for DDs to be punished even heavier than they already are, because just overpens, one overpen alone from a battleship shell on a DD on average takes out about 5% of their health. Usually DDs have around a bit more than 20k, and battleship shells deal a bit more than, overpens deal a bit more than 1k. So on average every shell will deal about 5% damage. So if you hit about 10 shells, 10 overpens, you will deal half their health pool in damage, and considering most of the battleships in the game right now can usually pump out anywhere between 9 and 12 shells, I think that's a pretty damn good balance. There's no need for the game mechanic of 8 full penetrations on DDs to exist. Now, someone might argue realism here. If a shell this big hit a small destroyer like that, then it totally would do massive damage, blah 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 blah. Please don't use that argument with me. People who try to use the realism argument only ever apply it to things they support. Like battleship accuracy during World War II was something like what, 3 to 8%, I think. Was it 3? It might have been less. It might have been 2 to 5%, something like that. Battleship accuracy in this game is what, around 30%. So that's almost a 10-fold increase. So should we nerf battleship accuracy to realistic levels of World War II? Of course not. That would make gameplay horrible. If you had 3% accuracy in this game, if you shot 100 shells and landed 3, it would be awful gameplay. So no, you cannot always use realism to try to make an argument. That often leads to really bad gameplay decisions. And this current mechanic of battleship AP being able to completely wreck DDs if they happen to angle just the right, well, not even just the right way, if they just happen to angle, then you will pretty much automatically penetrate them and deal absolutely ridiculous damage. And this, in my opinion, is terrible. There's no place for this mechanic in the game. All it serves to do is frustrate destroyer players, which isn't really needed. I mean, there's already so many tools to counter destroyers in this game. There's already so many ways to counter them, and most of them rely on a type of damage that can be avoided just by changing your course every 30 seconds. Like, DDs don't need additional nerfs. Yamato giving me full broadside here, so well, goodbye. He's actually pretty lucky that he didn't get devastated here, but a pretty good chunking on him. And I see it once again, my Hydra spotting the DD on the other side. I'm grounding here, so in case he's trying to torp or push around, and then I start reversing, and I can just spot him all the time, because once again, this is one of the tools available to you. One of the more dumber tools. Once again, I don't think battleships need this kind of tool. I don't think the Großer Kurfürst is an example of many things in battleship designs that I currently disagree with in this game. Oh, did he give broadside? Yeah, you see, he gave broadside, so he only ate 6k damage, only ate a quarter of his health, because he happened to be giving the kind of angle you need to give to a battleship. Of course, he's eating a bunch of secondary damage on top, and sailing like this means he's in the open, but he mitigated the damage for, well, 22 seconds until my next volley arrives. And here he makes the mistake of turning away, and suddenly I only needed to land 3 shells, 2 Orpens and 1 pen, and I deal almost twice as much damage as I did with the earlier 5 hits. And he gets absolutely deleted, and I get my Kraken. And his torps, well, I just sail away and dodge them. And that kind of mechanic, in my opinion, it's stupid. It's too favorable for the battleships in this kind of battle. It's too favorable in the favor of battleships. The DDs are in a situation where they can make absolutely no mistake, whereas they have to angle differently to different types of ammunition, different types of ships, and so forth. Whereas in a battleship, you pretty much just put nose in against anything and you already mitigate it. Here's, by the way, a tip: if you're facing an Iowa, Missouri, Montana, whatever, who's trying to push in like this, you note that I intentionally aimed for his front turrets when he tried to start pushing towards me, and I permanently broke his front turret. That was intentional. Once again, I'm aiming slightly above his nose. I don't want my shells to bounce on his nose. I want to hit his front turret. And blap, broke that one as well. Not permanently. If you want to permanently break guns, you need to first hit them once, get 1 pen so that red thing shows up. That means it's disabled, and then you need to hit it again to permanently break it. The first turret I managed to break because I landed multiple shells in a row, so it went red and then instantly broke right after. It didn't have time. to repair it. I think he damage con this one to try to save the turret, but I aimed for it again and I broke it again. Of course, if a Missouri tries to angle nose in like this, and you aim like I do at the turrets, well, he can't deal any damage to you. You might notice this guy isn't shooting. Well, that's because both of his turrets, one is permanently disabled, the other one is being knocked out with every volley I shoot. And he's still trying. I might soon be up, his gun might be up, but I permanently break it, and I finally get the penetrations on his superstructure I was looking for, and I finish him off. And, well, the game is of course quite a monster game. I earned over 1.3 million credits, and I think from the missions I only get about 200k, so this was a 1 million credit game just from gameplay alone. I do run the premium camo on my Großer Kurfürst. If you really enjoy some ship, or you intend to play a ship a lot, getting the premium camo for that tier 10 might very well be worth it. At least I think it's worth it for my Kurfürst, since I do play it quite a lot on the Russian server and enjoy it quite a bit as well. 264,000 damage, not the highest, but 6 kills, and in case you followed the game, you noticed we were actually quite far down on points, and it was quite the comeback, so it was a very enjoyable game in that sense. A lot of missions being completed for bonus stuff, but that's of course because I'm playing on Russia, and on the Russian server we have a absolute shit ton of these bonuses going on all the time. Team score wise, 3.5k base XP, which I consider very good for a battleship, especially considering the second guy on my team earned 1.6, 1.7k, so I pretty much doubled his XP. Actually, yeah, more than doubled his XP, which I consider quite, well, I consider it a very good game in that sense. And detailed report, of course, well, 2.2 million potential, that's okay, could have been better. Tanked 1.3 million, tanked 103k, oh my god, tanked 103k damage. Once again, not the highest, but pretty okay, considering I ate some torps in there. When you're fighting multiple Shimakazes, eating some torps at some point is kinda inevitable, but it's not the end of the world, because if you play my tank build with fire prevention, you pretty much always have your repair party ready for any torpedoes coming your way, and it's easy to deal with them that way. Secondaries, even though they shot quite a bit, only did 17k damage. Once again, I don't rate secondary builds on Kurfürst at all, because tank builds are so much more effective. And you can see, of course, the damage I dealt. The Großer I dealt 21k to, Shima I dealt 12k to, the other Shima I dealt something like 10k to as well. So I kind of wrecked all their DDs, which is not that balanced in my opinion. As you can see, 1 million credits if you exclude the combat missions. The combat missions gave 270k. Overall, a very nice game, and I think also served as a good example of how stupid the current mechanic is, where anytime a DD angles against you, they're actually screwing themselves over, but anytime they don't angle against any other ship besides a battleship, they also screw themselves over. There is no winning. There is no good decision to make, and that leaves them with no. It just leaves them in a shit situation. There's no good place to make except go to port and play a battleship instead of playing a DD. And if you push them into that kind of decision, then obviously there is a serious problem with the gameplay. Anyway, that was my not so small, Jesus, 18 minutes long complaint. Holy shit. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it. That was all for me.